Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to the second lesson in the ninth fetter. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about what synchronicity is and what it isn't, and how synchronicity is correlated to the fetters and to non-duality. And while I was looking at different videos and researching and all that for this video, I came across a lot of videos on YouTube that is talking about the toxic type of synchronicity that we're going to address, and that's one of the reasons that we would like to address it as well. So synchronicity is a term that Carl Jung, that he termed, he coined, where he saw that two different incidents or two different situations, seemingly unrelated situations, suddenly were connected in a way that it wasn't really a direct connection to it. He had some dreams where he saw horrible sceneries, and shortly after the First World War, I think it was, broke out. And he had different experiences like that. And he wrote a super interesting book, if you're into that, called Synchronicity. Which I can warn you, we should have brought it, so we could hold it up.
In the other room.
In the other room, that I can warmly recommend you, if you're into stuff like that. He's also into astrology and stuff, but it's just really interesting to see how he connects psychotherapy and psychology with synchronicity. And the way that we work with synchronicity is obviously in the ninth fetter, where it's about flow. But before we start to talk about how we work with it, I would like for us to talk a bit about what synchronicity is not. Because the majority of places, when you Google and you search for YouTube videos about synchronicity, you're getting a really, really good example of what synchronicity is not. And it has kind of been taken into that toxic new age spirituality where you just, wish for whatever you want, and then you get a big car,
manifest whatever it is.
Then you manifest whatever you want, and you get millions on your bank account, and a beautiful partner, and the big car, and big house, and all of that. And it's just about manifesting it, and wishing, and then it becomes yours.
It's one of those terms that has almost been corrupted the way that karma has.
Yeah.
It's like has a pop culture definition, which is very different from its original.
Yeah, because if there's something wrong in your life right now, and you're watching this video because you would like to learn how you can attract all the things you want in your life, I would recommend you to go to the fourth fetter and work with that. Because if you have that feeling that this now that is here right now is not the now that you want something else than what is here right now, that is in the fourth fetter.
Yeah.
We work with that. And obviously if you want a bigger car and more pretty partner, or beautiful, handsome partner, more money, better job, all of that.
Better kids.
Better kids,
whatever,
and a dog that does not bark. Then it's obviously ego. You're back in the first fetter. It's nothing but ego gratification, external proofs of that I am okay, with a second fetter. So all of those pointers that you find online, that is pointing on how you manifest and attract and all of that, if you just step to the side a bit and look at it, you can see how much ego that is. It's all about consumerism. It's all about capitalism. About
how what I have now is somehow unsatisfactory, and that I always need something else to become happy, to become fulfilled, to become a better version of me. That that things have to constantly be improving, and that there's always some goal out there to get to. There's always some other thing. So it's all first five fetters.
Yeah, absolutely. The lower five fetters, absolutely. And the whole huge neon sign pointing and red flags blinking and all of that is obviously that all of it is self-referential.
Yeah.
This is about how I
Yeah.
feel better, how I get a better life, how I get more money, how I get a better job, how I get a dog that doesn't bark.
And also being aware, we'll talk more about this I think coming up, but being aware of how much of that is couched in ideas of like my destiny, my higher good. Like this has all been somehow laid out for me, and this is, what has been preordained for me, but I still have to do something in order to get that,
to deserve it.
Or to make it happen. And that there's just this complete engulfing of belief that is surrounding all of that, and trying to put all of this into context. And really it's a way of putting our own suffering and insecurities into context, where they start to mean something, where they're all put to some purpose to somehow improve my life or the life of others, that there's something there that makes everything that I've gone through meaningful in a way that justifies it, and then says, but there's something else that I can be doing to get out of it. And so
it's the reward.
Yeah.
And I just need to play my cards right, and then I will attract all the rewards that I actually deserve. The problem is obviously that there's an I here that is suffering right now, that it shouldn't be like that. It should just be, dance on roses, and that I shouldn't be suffering. And if I get a bigger car, better job, or perfect health, or any of that, then I will finally get what I deserve. And the problem partly with having that, self-referential I that is here in the middle is obviously that it assumes that there is an I here in the middle. And it's also assuming that if I get a bigger car, if I get a better job and a dog that doesn't bark and all of that, then everything will be good. But it's only looking at how that feels to me, not what repercussions that will have on the poor dog that can't bark, or on the partner,
environment, or from the Hummer that you just bought, because it's
all the suffering that your gratification is having, because everything is just how this feels to me, not about. And even if it's about that I want to bring peace on earth, then it's about the angel wings and halo that you get from that. But what repercussions does that have to other people? That you all of a sudden fly around like an angel. So it's very much when you look into synchronicity, be aware that is a whole market on its own, a New Age spirituality market on its own, that is basically about you doing something or buying something so you can and
it comes from that same kind of standpoint or tradition as like the self-help New Age ideology, that it reinforces on every possible level, like you said, the self who is going through time, who is achieving and making things happen and improving in some way. So it's quite incompatible with the actual understanding and realization and practical integration into life of non-duality and no self.
So
which I was going to say also is why I think, when we talk about this with the ninth fetter, if you've already seen through so many of those first layers, and it makes more sense to be dealing with this now, because you see this is still something, this is like an incompatible thing in this direction. If you've already seen through, if you've had experiences of anatta and no self, then of course it doesn't make sense to have any ideas like this kind of self-improvement, wish-fulfilling gem that you're connecting to.
No, and also if you've done the curriculum, you also know that the moment thoughts like that or pulls like that comes up in you, you know exactly which fetter you go to listen over and be reminded, oh yeah, right. So you get back on track again on the path that you are, instead of, swaying off, because it is like, it is circles we go through, obviously, and it is like that. So let's talk about how we see synchronicity.
Yeah.
First of all, what we have to say is that we do not know.
No.
We don't know what it is.
Things happen.
Yeah.
And that's about the extent of
That's
what we can say. Is that
that's about it.
Good night, everyone.
It's about it. No, but it's that thing that we have this thing as human beings, that we see patterns everywhere.
Yeah.
So when for example, that if you've been pregnant, all of a sudden you see pregnant women everywhere. If you want a new car, you see that car everywhere. We have that thing that when we focus on something, even though it's subconsciously that we are focusing on, but we're thinking of it, it is in the back of our minds, then we suddenly see a pattern. So if what was it we just experienced? We just had that experience where there's something we talked about, and then so we talked, I can't remember what it was, but we talked about something, and then we kind of forgot about it, and then it was that stretching place.
Oh yeah.
So we talked about something, and then we kind of forgot about it, and then the phone rang, and then it was the stretching place, asking if we wanted to make a free appointment, and
and it was literally like within a half hour of us talking about it.
So what the mind does is like creating stories on beliefs on based on that. Yeah. But if you remove all the stories and you remove all the beliefs, then the only thing that is left is that there's something that arose in your mind, and then things just fall into place in front of you. And that is what we call the night fetter flow. That because life is easy, life is uncomplicated and easy. You just need to get out of the way. And then things will fall in place in front of you without knowing how that actually happens. And there's so many things that happens the way that you want it to happen. But how do you know that is the case, or is it just you really wanting that, and that you really want apples, and like when we wanted to go and pick apples, and then you suddenly saw an advertising about it, and then we went and picked apples.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, is that also how much of it is, because we are priming ourselves to see certain things, which are like you said, that if you have the idea that, I want to buy this kind of new car, and now I'm researching it, and then you start to see it everywhere. And there's an exercise which I don't know who originally started it, but I know Burroughs has recommended it, but I've mentioned it in a couple places. If you just walk around the street or just look around your room and think a certain color,
yeah.
If you just right now
tell that thing about it with Chris.
Yeah. So just right now, if you're sitting there and just looking around your room or wherever you are, and think the color blue, and just look around the room, and all of a sudden you will see every blue thing in the room will jump out at you in a way in which in the past it would probably just have been taken as part of the overall backdrop.
But what you do is you think like blue,
and even just
blue,
and you can even try it a little bit slower, but you can just go blue, and then just scan the room, and all of a sudden it's like blue things just start popping out, and then you go red, and then all of a sudden every single red thing as you're looking will jump out. And you can do it more frequently if you need that to maintain your focus. But you can try this with all different colors, and what ends up happening is you start to see things that ordinarily would have gone completely underneath the threshold of awareness, because they weren't interesting. The brain is not picking them up because it's just something you have seen thousands of times before, or it's not particularly relevant. But all of a sudden you've now made it relevant. So now the brain is finding all of these things because that's what it does. It gathers information and is on the lookout for hunting for whatever it is that you need to survive. And so in that moment, it thinks it needs blue or red to survive for some benefit. And so I think it's the same sort of thing where if you have the idea that, well, I'm looking at this particular car, now you are on the lookout, even if it's not as active as what we just did, but subconsciously there's still this looking out for that car or pregnant people or whatever it is that is of interest. And we don't know because, again, we talk about this so much that there is no me in here who's directing things and calling the shots and making choices. That seed that is planted, that I need to get a new car and I don't know how I'm going to afford to pay for it and all of these things, those are in there in the programming of what is basically deriving all of the behavior for the next 6 months or whatever. Every moment is being created by this same processor that has now a directive to acquire this car in some hopefully legal means. And so it's putting in the machinations.
Don't
that
put
as
seeds in people's minds.
I'm saying hopefully legal.
But Todd
I'm
said...
saying it's always a possibility. I'm saying hopefully that's not your go-to option of how to acquire the car that you would like. But, the brain has to
go for the legal. Come on, guys. Go for the legal.
But so we don't know what's actually happening underneath the hood that is creating these different pathways and choices of, well, maybe I won't buy Starbucks for the next month so I can save some more money. And maybe I will take that, that job that I just saw pop up in the newspaper. Oh, well, now that suddenly is interesting to me in a way that it wouldn't have been if I hadn't had that interest in a car. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to feel like, well, that just popped out to me. Like I was meant to get that job because that's helping me get this car. Well, maybe it's only interesting to you because you already have this prior interest in the goal that's coming forward. So it's things where we take, we don't know how the processing is actually happening, but it's that what we're talking about really is that unnecessary meaning that you are then putting on all of these different occurrences and lumping them together. That me happening to look through a paper or
buying
online
a paper that I never bought, or seeing it in a cafe that I'm never in, and just one of those,
or a YouTube algorithm popping something up, or a Facebook algorithm popping something up, and it's like all of a sudden you see this thing, and it seems like it was catered directly to you by some sort of cosmic force, which is just creating this pathway to get that thing that you want. And it's just recognizing that is an overlay that has nothing to do with the actual situation. It's an assumption you're making, and it might be comforting in some ways, but sort of past this eighth fetter place, this is where we're starting to lose all of these comforting beliefs that make us feel like we're being swaddled and
it's exactly. I do think that there's really something about that, because when I speak with people and we talk about, they're beginning to play with the eighth fetter, and they're beginning to have that letting go of all beliefs. That sounds like really, really not something that I would be comfortable with, because it is nice to have the feeling of being held. And like we talked about in the eighth fetter, they stay there as long as you need to. But it is also that amazing things are happening. Things that we cannot explain are happening. You don't have to put that onto some divine outside of you. It is happening, even if you don't mention that divine thing that you're placing in it. The amazing things are happening.
But an interesting thing to notice is if you feel like you need to hold on to that for some other feeling of security, or B, have sort of a magical thinking hook that if you question it, then it's not going to happen to you anymore, or that you have to give it credit or thanks or something for it to keep happening, so that you stoke the fires of synchronicity to keep bestowing upon you all of the jewels and benefits that you so crave. It's one more fabrication of the mind that is just creating these extra complications and worries and insecurities. So having that comfort of just recognizing, in this moment, I have seen a want ad. And in this moment, that felt right to me. There's this body yes that ooh, that job actually sounds interesting. I'm going to apply. And then the application happens, and then you get the job. Each one of those is just its own lone occurrence. And notice if the instant that you start to put in that meaning that connects this unconnected event with another unconnected event with another unconnected event on the seeming narrative arc that brings you towards the car at the final end, as if that's a stopping place. As if all of a sudden the whole synchronicity train has just been to get you to that station and now it's done.
Yeah. So it's also that we don't have a problem with people, feeling the divine intervention and feeling the universe conspiring and making things possible. And we absolutely have no problem with it whatsoever. And you can call it anything, call it Frank. You can call it anything. Because it's just a label we put on something that already is happening. Yeah. We do not know why things are connected like that, and we do not know if it is like what we sit and talk about, that we just prime our brains to see it. Yeah. That is utter guesswork at this point, because we don't have all the answers yet. Yeah. In neurochemistry and biology and psychology and neuropsychology, and we don't know how all these things work. So it's just whatever plausible explanation that could be to it in 2024. We have no idea. Yeah, we have no idea. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say too, and then noticing on the also along that narrative arc of your synchronistic wish list, the meaning that we put onto that this thing happened for my highest good, or that this thing happened for my benefit, and I'm so fortunate that this synchronicity happened, so that this thing happened, and the problem is, again, taking in its most minute context, this event happened, and in this moment, it seems like a positive thing. But you have no idea where that's going to end. You don't know all of the ramifications, and so at any point along there is this artificial sense of security again, or comfort in knowing that like all of this is conspiring for my best interest, and that now it's happened, and I'm getting the thing that I needed, and this is all great. Not realizing that in 5 years' time, it's going to be the complete ruination of...
Or the job you got was you got it over another guy that is now homeless with his family of 4, and you got the job. But we do not know.
It's a very self-centered viewpoint, that it's like, this is to my benefit, and having no concept of how this is involving anything else in this whole net of being.
Yeah. So when we talk about being in the ninth fetter flow, it's very much about flowing with that body yes, body no. Yeah. So you're kind of like, there's not an I that is making a decision. There's no underlying belief in anything. You do not have a starting point when you wake up in the morning. There's not a starting point of where your mind is, what you want to do, the planning that you are making. You can have, for example, we met a friend today. So we can get up in the morning and believing that we're going to meet that friend, and we are, we have to get up now, and in order to have the cup of coffee, and then do we go for a walk before or after? We can do all of those, what do you call that? Pseudo plans, because we need to be absolutely open for then a hurricane comes, or then.
And as it turns out, something actually happened, and we didn't meet them at the time that we were planning on meeting them. So, but there was no hooks into it had to be this way. Now, everything is lost. It was just, we just sat around reading a bit, waiting, and then things happened, and we were able to go.
Yeah, so. And we even talked about that. Isn't it funny that you can never be waiting?
Yeah, exactly.
That it was actually a bit, we had time to sit and do things that we normally wouldn't do because we don't. Yeah. So it's just that ninth fetter flow is just flowing with whatever is presenting itself right now, and without having any hooks into how it should be, because you have a starting point and you have like a path and an end point of how things are going to be. If you don't have any of that, you're just in that ninth fetter flow where you're just flowing with whatever is presenting itself. And 100 years ago, I made a video, a short, where I ask you the question, can you ever be waiting? And it's exactly that. There's never a situation that is not like it is supposed to be. Like we were supposed to, we thought we were supposed to leave at 10.
Well, 9:45, and
Yeah,
instead,
9:45. We thought that, but we didn't, which means we weren't supposed to leave at 10 or 9:45. We were not supposed to do that. And we were not sitting and waiting for our friend to see our message and find out where to meet and all of that. All that is just mind created.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the real, with reality in the moment when it's happening. So we're not waiting. You can never ever be waiting for anything. It's just a now, right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on the word "supposed to," because that even sounds like, well, we weren't supposed to leave then. We were supposed to leave at 10:15, but it's not even that there is, because that almost implies that there's like some still divine manifestation of but really you were supposed to leave at 10:15, and so that was already preordained. We don't mean it like that. It's just that
thank you.
This is simply how it was happening. I just didn't want anybody to hear it the wrong way.
Thank you.
That no, we weren't meant to leave at
you make it
10.
even worse.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it comes across, is that it's like that idea that like, well, we weren't meant to be there at 9:45. We were meant to leave at 10:15. But no, it's just that is what happened. And it's just simply stating the facts without putting any layer of storyline onto it or assumption about some cosmically directed hand of fate, any of that.
Yeah. So it needs to be without any expectations to anything, where you can really, truly be open to whatever is opening itself in front of you, and you just flow with that. With a body yes, that is the direction. When there's a body no, then it's not that direction, and then you wait until you feel a body yes and know what direction you're flowing in then. So, and that is where, what I think Jung was talking about with synchronicity. That is where things that seems to be magical, really like, how the fuck was that planned? How is that even possible? That those two things, like us meeting,
I know, I was just going to say that.
Us two meeting, how is that even possible? I mean, we still to this day have not figured out how that even happened.
No. And it lends itself to those kind of mystical assumptions of some sort of, intervention by somebody somewhere doing something, because it is so inexplicable by our limited perceptions.
But it's simply because we haven't got all the information.
Exactly.
I usually use that example of, if you ask a 3-year-old if they would like an ice cream, $100, they want the ice cream, because they simply do not have the information of how much ice cream they can buy for $100.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that just because we haven't got all the information, we don't know how things like this happen.
And like we were saying before, the incredible thing is that this happened because neither of us were forcing something to happen. Neither of us were looking for anything. It wasn't like one of us had gone out and like, okay, well, now I need to find a person who I am so compatible with, who is doing Fetter work, who is,
eating weird,
like all the
have
things,
weird interest and
all the things that we have in common, the same sense of humor, like, and then like well, I'm going to set up a dating profile and I'm going to find that, like, there was no machinations of trying to make something like that happen. There was no looking for anybody. There was no even idea of being interested in trying to find somebody. It was just this natural thing that just spontaneously occurred, and then acknowledging that body yes, that it felt right, and then it happened.
Yeah.
But but what I was going to say is that if one of us had been like, okay, I am actively going to forcefully figure out how to find this person, most likely this never would have happened.
No. It is like we talk about the 9th and the 3rd fetter are pairs. And what you hear me say the most in the 3rd fetter is that you cannot make it happen. You can only let it happen. And it really talks into the 9th fetter, and especially about synchronicity, that you cannot make it happen. At the moment you're forceful, you have an agenda, and you're pushing everything away because you're not open in the moment to other things opening themselves or presenting themselves, because you are hell-bent on it being exactly that. So you're not seeing all the other things that are opening themselves right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
But you do not acknowledge them because you have another focus.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not having a starting point, not having an underlying belief, and just flowing with a body yes when it happens, and then you automatically flow into this. Yeah. 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 The last thing we would like to address is about the illusion of linearity. That whenever we talk about synchronicity, we see it as a linear experience.
Yeah, we're defining naturally that if, to use the same metaphor that we've been using, if I decide that I want a car in the future, that everything along that timeline, the finding a job, the doing the research, the saving the money, all of that stuff is happening one after another sequentially, with that getting the car at the end as the final point on that timeline. But it's coming from that false standpoint that there is a linearity of the arrow of time happening in that direction. We don't know how it really is. It can be that there is in some place in time, however this stuff works, you already are driving around that car. And the way that you're experiencing it now is you are drawn to that car, you are drawn to that job, you are drawn to all of these things because there is a recognition that that thing has already happened in the future. We don't know. I mean, it's all very speculative, and it's just used as a way to break yourself out of the confidence in your perception that where I am right now is carless and jobless, and I must do this next thing to get to this point and that point. Because that is reinforcing that sense of the doer who is following the path and the path itself, which is linear and
going in that direction.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it as a horizontal plane where that this was past, this is where you're now, this is the future with the car, then see it like vertical, that everything is happening at the same time. That is the dimension of time that we like Babur says, that time doesn't exist, but change does. And it's because we're experiencing that change, but putting it into a linearity is just part of that delusion that it is to have a meat suit.
No.
So we do not know. That's the whole point of it. Exactly. We do not know. And like Todd says, you might be drawn to the job or drawn to doing this because you already have the car, you already have the job. And it just feels like, oh yeah, right, that was that job. Yeah. Because you already have it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I don't know if this is the case, but it almost feels to me where when I'm working on this book that I'm writing, a certain poem or certain section will feel like it clicks, and then it clicks and it's like, yes, that's right. I can't necessarily say why it feels like that, but it's a very clear recognition that that part is done. It's that way. And I have in mind this kind of feeling where it's almost like that the book is finished someplace, and it's when the current manifestation of it comes into alignment with that finished book that is somewhere published, that there feels like this inner click that's like, yep, okay, that's the way that it ends up. And in the parts that don't feel right yet, the parts that feel like, I don't know, every time I read it, something's a little bit off. It's because it hasn't lined up with where its final form ends up being. And even when we got the first copy of it, the first proof, and I saw the thing, it has that feeling like, oh yeah, there was a recognition, even though I've worked on the cover for a while, there's a recognition seeing it in person that's like, yeah, I recognize that. Like, that is a book that has been in existence before, and it's that kind of internal feeling.
But that was the same the first time that we met.
Yeah.
At the airport, I had that feeling. Todd, he gave me a hug, and his smell, I had that feeling of recognition. And we have never, ever met before. I've never been to the States. He's never been outside of the States. So it's absolutely impossible that we would have met one another before in that horizontal linearity. If everything is vertical, then obviously there's a recognition, because it has already happened. We have already met. When I wrote my last book, what I did when I was writing it, because I was very, very focused on getting out of my own way when I was writing it. So I would go to bed and I would lie and think of the topic that I would like to write on. And then I would just completely let go of it, dissolve the body, dissolve everything, let go of everything. And when I woke up in the morning, I would sit down and the chapter would just write itself. And I haven't at any point had a feeling that I was involved in writing that book. It was more like it was something that just happened, and I was just not interfering with it in any way. And the book was written in a month. That it was just that, not I won't say coming through me, because there's no me and there's no coming anywhere. But it's more that feeling of, like you say, that there's like this recognition of it is already written. I mean, if I ask you to hum Yesterday with Beatles, you can probably hum it if you know the song. You can hum the song because you have already heard it. And it's that feeling of a recognition of something that already is.
Yeah.
But to experience that, we need to get out of the way, out of any expectation to anything happening in a certain way, and just whatever is. I also had that with the book, that sometimes I would had an idea of what a chapter would be about, but what the chapter ended being about was not what I had the idea it was going to be about.
Yeah. I mean, last night I sat down at the computer and I was trying to edit what was there, and it was just that feeling of like, no, not right. And so I just opened up a new document, because I had this kind of feeling for a couple hours of writing something, and I just put the hands on the keyboard and ended up writing 2 short poems in like an hour, something like that. And it was just like,
and
okay,
they fit
perfectly, and I knew exactly where to put them, and it was just, it just absolutely fit. But it was only because there was that getting out of the way, and just, okay, reading and rewriting the stuff that's always there, it just doesn't feel right. Something new is there.
So yeah.
We don't know how any of it works.
No.
It's not to create a story and a belief about that. It's just to be open to that body yes of, this is the moment to do the thing. The thing happens. Oftentimes good thing, or poetry comes out of that doing in that moment.
And it is very much about just getting out of the way.
Yeah.
Was that it? I think that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that more or less covers what we wanted to say.
Otherwise, we're going to sum it in the 10 pointers.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned. The 10 pointers will have a lot more of this.
A lot more. Probably.
Yeah.
Was that it?
I think so.
Okay.
So, I guess just to summarize, I think it's really not about discounting any experiences that are happening or trying not to have any experiences happen. Don't go the other way where it's like,
putting your foot down.
Exactly. Yeah. No, this seems too perfect. I can't have that. Like it's really about getting out of the way altogether and not putting any overlays on what is happening. So you're neither forceful towards making something happen nor judgmental about whether this seems like the good thing or the bad thing or the thing that's going to get me where I want to go or not, or those extra ideas of trying to figure out like, well, okay, but I want that car, and if I do this and then this and then this and then this, and then holding so fast to them that you miss those things that show up that really are possibly going to get you there in a way that is, if that's the right thing, because we don't know even if that car is actually a car that you really are going to want once you, no matter how much research you've done. But it's that like,
do you want a new car? You're talking a lot about
I think so. I think we need a new car, babe. But it's like really honoring the body yes, body no, as you were saying, and that feeling to just allow things to happen as they happen. Go, find what feels like the natural path that you're being pulled towards, and then not quickly grasping to put some sort of overlay of story or meaning or definition or something, some limiting belief on it that ties everything down and puts you in a box where you have to have things a certain way because you need that feeling of comfort, security, okayness, that you're being protected and watched over and drawn to the...
Yeah,
those are all things those are all things to like. It's not a problem if you have that, but it's something that you might want to look into because it shows that there's still some deeper concern, some identification that hasn't been met, something that is still some starting point that is still coming from that place of insecurity and perhaps not enough or unsafety.
And a way to find that out, if that is an issue with you, is if you take what we say as a new belief. But Todd and Pernille, they said that. So that is my new belief. Then you have that need for something higher having your back and something higher being guiding you. You know, breathe. You do not need to do any of this at all for it to work, and you can call it anything. You don't need to let go of a belief if it works for you. And taking this on as a new belief is not helpful. It's just swapping one concept with another. So it's more about, in the ninth fetter, of being where, try it out for yourself and feel how it is to be in a position where there's no belief, there's no starting point, there's no agenda at all because there's no starting point. And it's just with whatever is arising in the moment, this now is what is here, this now. There's nothing next, and there's nothing happening for a purpose of a next. It's just what is arising in this moment right now. And then you can retrospectively look at it and see, wow, that was what took me from A to B. But in the moment, you are not aware of that because there's no belief in it. It's just what is arising right now. But I mean, before we met, I did not know all those things that were happening and falling into place for this to happen. It's only retrospectively I can see, oh wow, that was... If that and that and that and that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. Or just one of them, this wouldn't have happened.
No, and we can never predict those things.
No. So, and it's just important to notice that when you are in the moment, you do not know that this moment is significant. You only know that retrospectively. So it's
only significant in terms of the narrative of that one particular thing.
You
know, we talk about all these things in isolation as if this relationship was the only thing that was relevant, or that car is the only thing that's relevant, or whatever it is. And it's not, you know, like the things that you didn't do that would have made this so this never happened might then themselves have been super relevant to this other whole storyline that just never happened because that just didn't happen.
Exactly.
So this is the one storyline that makes all of that relevant when we're looking back in retrospect.
And again, weaving together
exactly.
meaning where there isn't any.
Exactly.
But the only thing I wanted to say with that was that in the moment, this moment doesn't feel significant.
Yes.
Because
it's not.
It's not. Exactly.
Because it's not.
Exactly.
It's only significant if we have an idea of a greater storyline, which this plays
or when you're
one part
sitting
in.
and looking back, then you're creating that moment into a significant moment, which it wasn't.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's because, again, there has to be a storyline there. There has to be something that is saying that all of these things are significant to a particular purpose, to a particular story.
Yeah.
And so without any of that, then it's just that constantly renewing, unfolding experience where nothing leads to or is relevant to anything else, because that's the only thing. Without having memory, without having any sort of ability to retrospect and catalog all of those things, of course, we wouldn't even be able to make that sense of connection or synchronicity or meaning or anything. We have to be able to look back and forward in time to be able to have any sense of that. So the more you are just present in the moment, in direct experience, where things are just arising and flowing spontaneously, naturally, none of that makes any sense whatsoever.
And that, I was just sitting and thinking that there's also that part about that not sure if I'm forgetting it now, that when you get out of the way and things are just falling into place, if you don't have any expectation about how things should fall into place, and if you have done the curriculum up until this point,
What happened?
I think it's still recording. I don't know why I did.
Can we be sure of that? Because that's
It
Okay,
is.
okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So if all these things, if you're doing things and you are getting out of the way and things are just falling into place in the moment, and it's just whatever is arising, and there's no expectation to it being in a certain way, it is just what it is in this moment, then, like we have talked about a lot of times in the curriculum, that you can always make use of what this moment is. You know, there's always a moment of transcendence and development and insight in every single moment. No matter if your car breaks down and it's snowstorm and you're sitting and waiting for AAA to come and pick you up, even that is a moment of reflection and just being present right now and experiencing what is alive right now. And that might be the biggest insight for you to write a bestseller or come up with a new music track or whatever you're doing, finding you finally want to go and adopt a puppy or what it is. You know, we do not know. But so part of it that we have talked about during the entire curriculum, where that every moment is useful. There's always something useful in this moment, even though you can't see it. It's also part of why synchronicity becomes a thing, because everything is useful. I think that was it. Otherwise, we pick it up in the 10 pointers.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Better wrap it up before your computer decides that we're definitely done.
Gone. Okay, I think that was it.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know what happened.
That was really weird.
Really, really weird. Well, here we go.
You guys have talked long enough.
Yeah. Off we go.
Off we go.
Bye.